Yep, you read the title and thumbnail correctly. Long before I went on a journey to name the Paradox Pokemon, I spent the majority of 2023 playing through Pokemon Black on and off, all to answer a wildly stupid and morbid question I had. Can you actually beat Pokemon Black only using black Pokemon? At first I wanted to play through Pokemon White version only using white colored Pokemon since that was the game I played in my childhood. But looking at the list of available white Pokemon in Pokemon White, that challenge looked a lot easier with the available Pokemon. And being a Pokemon veteran, I felt I would have the skills necessary to play the opposite version instead. So what actually counts as a black Pokemon? Bulbapedia has a list of Pokemon sorted by color, and so I looked at the list of black Pokemon that will be available during the Gen 5 main story. Those Pokemon would be Blitzle, Zebstrika, Yamask, Sigilyph, Lampent, and Chandelure. Exactly those 6. No Zorua or Zoroark because even if they were available in the main story without events or downloads, they're actually considered gray. No Ponyard or Bisharp since they're actually red, and no members of the Dino line since even if it didn't take an eternity to evolve into Hydreigon, they're classified as blue and so they're off the list too. And so without further ado, we run into 2 more problems. First is that the footage I recorded was all completely corrupted and destroyed beyond repair, and so I'll have to recreate the major battles using Pokemon Showdown as best as I can. This is also why this video got delayed about 1 or 2 months, because I had to completely recreate everything, and I had to emotionally recover, and then spiritually, and then mentally, and it was just not a good time. This really just big nerf to motivation. The second issue is that the Pokemon available at the beginning of the challenge. The first Pokemon, Blitzle, is found on Route 3, just west of the Striaton Gym, and the initial plan was to rush over there as fast as I could and catch one to start the challenge. Turns out, you can't continue without first beating the Striaton Gym, so that required I beat the game. No, not beat the whole game. Beat the first gym with Tepig, who I count as an honorary black Pokemon, because of the dark spots on its body, and because Black uses a Tepig in the Special Adventures manga, so close enough. Alright, so after taking down the Striaton Gym, I then catch 2 Blitzle to start the challenge. Why 2 Blitzle? It's so that I can evolve one and get a Zebstrika later. The first gym leader to start this challenge with is Lenora. I lead with the first Blitzle with a defensive nature, who nerfs the Herdier with Thunder Wave and Tail Whip before taking it down with Pursuit. Then the Watchog comes in with a Steadily Retaliate, and it's up to the slightly more offensive Blitzle to take over, using Thunder Wave to slow it down before whittling it down with Spark. It's also holding the Chesto Berry just in case Watchog lands a Hypnosis. Burgh is also defeated with largely the same strategy. The defensive Blitzle leads by Thunder Waving and Tail Whipping his team, and then I switch into the offensive Blitzle, who has learned Flame Charge at this point, and kills everything with it. Just before I face Elesa's Electric Gym, I make sure to go to the Desert Resort and Relic Castle to pick up the next 2 team members, Sigilyph and Yamask. Sigilyph will be the fast special attacker for a while, and I can't evolve Yamask into Copper Gigas since it's considered a yellow Pokemon. So instead I have Yamask hold the Eviolite to fill the support/tank role on the team. The fight against Elesa has a simple plan. I lead with Sigilyph and use Light Screen to reduce the damage from the Volt Switching Emolga, and mash Psybeam with the Scope Lens to take them out as quickly as possible. From there, her Zebstrika comes in and finishes off Sigilyph. Eviolite Yamask switches in to use Will-O-Wisp to reduce the damage from his physical moves and whittle down its HP. I also try to use Hex to take it down, and the burn from Will-O-Wisp causes Hex to deal double damage. If Yamask goes down, my defensive Blitzle switches in to mash Tail Whip and Pursuit so that the rest of the team can finish off Elesa. Gym Leader Clay also goes down with similar tactics. Scope Lens Sigilyph leads with Reflect to reduce damage from his physical attacks before mashing Air Slash against Krokorok and Psybeam to take down Palpitoad. From here, Sigilyph makes sure to set up another Reflect and deal whatever chip damage to Excadrill before going down. I then swap in Yamask using the Will-O-Wisp Hex combo to take down Excadrill, but amazingly didn't take that long to defeat. The offensive Blitzle evolved into Zebstrika on its way to Skyla's gym, and it took down her entire gym just by mashing Spark and Flame Charge against the Iceria City gym, handling the two in a super anticlimactic sweep. I also pick up 2 Litwick from the Celestial Tower that'll become the future Lampent and Chandelure on the team, the final 2 black Pokemon that were needed to beat Pokemon Black version with only black Pokemon. Okay, now this is where it gets difficult. When facing Drayden, I'd had Yamask use the same Will-O-Wisp strategy against his Fracture and Druddigon. This time it also came with Disable to stop their Dark-type moves or Dragon Tail. When Yamask was about to faint, it would then curse and finish off whoever it was facing. From there, Sigilyph would set up a Reflect and use Psybeam to slowly tear down their HP. Once the Haxorus is sent out, Sigilyph would use Tailwind before fainting. It would now be up to the 2 newly evolved Lampent to finish off Haxorus. Just like the 2 Blitzle at the start of the game, one of the Lampent just so happened to have a defensive nature while the other one had a more offensive nature. The defensive Lampent would hold a Bright Powder and try to land Will-O-Wisp on Haxorus. Before fainting, the first Lampent would also use Curse to inflict another layer of chip damage on it every turn. It is now time for the second Lampent to hold the Spell Tag and hex away at the remaining HP. If the first Lampent failed to burn Haxorus, the second Lampent would then use Shadow Ball as a backup move. Thanks to Sigilyph's Reflect, I usually had 1 to 2 turns to try and land Will-O-Wisp, so that part wasn't actually too difficult. It only took 2/3 of my entire team just to take down 3 Pokemon. Now we get to the Pokemon League, the most difficult part of the run, and this would require a lot of strategy in order to go through it. After several failed attempts, I began to realize that the Elite Four appear to send out their Pokemon in sequential order, and they don't seem to send out the optimal counter against whatever they're currently facing. With that knowledge, I was able to come up with this plan. The first Elite Four I took on was Chantal, since she was the furthest to the left and I wanted to just go through them in order, and I thought she would be the easiest to take down. Thankfully she was. I had evolved the offensive Lampent into Chandelure at this point and gave it the Spell Tag. It then used Shadow Ball to send her team into the afterlife, though it didn't quite one-shot the Jellicent due to its high special bulk, so I took it down with 2 hexes in order to save on Shadow Ball PP. From there, I simply went to the next Elite Four member, Grimsley. First was Lampent, who would try and burn Scrafty with either Will-O-Wisp or a Flame Body, to have its attack stat and inflict chip damage every turn, and hopefully bait Grimsley into wasting full restores. I don't have to worry about Shedskin since this Scrafty has Moxie instead. I would try the same tactic against this Crocodile, or resorting to Memento as a last resort. From there, Eevee or like Yamask would come in and use its own Will-O-Wisp should Lampent fail. I then curse and disable it to neutralize it as much as possible before going down. At this point, Crocodile poses little to no threat, and the rest of the team can handle Grimsley's entire team with ease. Next was Caitlyn, and she leads with Reuniclus. I have Yamask burn it with Will-O-Wisp and combo it with Hex, as well as trying to disable its stab Psychic, so that it would have to rely on its non-stab Energy Ball, and an inaccurate Thunder, and Focus Blast that can't touch Yamask. Once it goes down, I sacrifice Yamask and send in Zebstrika to take down the Musharna and Sigilyph using Wild Charge paired with a Shell Bell to recover some HP from the recoil damage, and Stomp in case its HP got too low. From here, my own Sigilyph holding Scope Lens would use Air Slash against her Sigilyph should Zebstrika faint first, and then finish off her Gothitelle. Should my Sigilyph fall, I have Spell Tag Chandelure with Shadow Ball as a backup plan. The final Elite Four member is Marshall, and once again, Sigilyph is able to handle this battle without much issue. The only real concern was Sock, who had Sturdy and will need 2 hits in order to go down. When it appeared, I would switch into either Yamask or Lampent, and try to inflict Burn to get rid of Sturdy and have its attack stat, or letting them go down and switching back into Sigilyph to sweep Marshall's entire team. Ordinarily, we would face the champion of the region to complete the challenge, but Pokemon Black and White have a completely different requirement before we can see the end credits. The battle against N and Ghetsis was easily the hardest part of the entire run. It first begins with me catching Reshiram and the Master Ball to get it out of the way. Then it's time to battle N. He leads with the opposite Legendary Dragon of Unova, and I need half of my entire team just to take it down. Understandable since I'm facing a Legendary Pokemon, and I don't have the box Legendary that you're supposed to use in a normal playthrough. The first phase of taking down N Zekrom is to lead with Yamask, hoping to land a Will-O-Wisp and half its attack and to inflict chip damage on it every turn. I have it use Curse to add another layer of damage before going down. I then send in Lampent and use Memento to lower its offensive stats even further. It also packs Will-O-Wisps just in case Yamask was unsuccessful. Now it's Sigilyph's turn to finish off Zekrom. first by increasing the team's defense with Reflect, and then its own defense even further with Cosmic Power. From there, I just mash Psychic until Zekrom finally goes down. N's AI seems to be a bit more sophisticated and will send out different Pokémon depending on the game state. Here were the general strategies I used to take down each of N's Pokémon. When facing the Fossil duo, I have Rocky Helmet Blitzle use Thunder Wave to lessen their speed and hopefully cause them to skip their turns due to full paralysis. Then I'll lower their defenses with Tail Whip and Volt Switch out to Zebstrika, who then deals damage with Wild Charge, before going back to another team member with its own Volt Switch. Vanillix and Klinklang both go down to Chandelure's Fire Blast and a little bit of Prayer. Finally, I use whoever's left to take down a Zoroark. I'm not quite sure why he seemed to send out Zoroark last in most of my attempts, so if someone that understands the AI better has an answer, do leave an explanation down below. Maybe he's scripted to do that for all I know. This plan took several attempts to get a consistent strategy, but once I figured it out, I was able to take down N with relative ease. Now for the final boss of Pokemon Black and White, and the last gatekeeper to success, Ghetsis. Ghetsis leads with Cofagrigus, and I lead with Sigilyph. Thankfully, it has Magic Guard, which didn't really contribute much until now. The Cofagrigus can't Toxic Stall us as it usually wants to, and its only real tactic is to keep using Shadow Ball. All I needed to do was Air Slash it to death, and hope for the occasional flinch or critical hit. If Sigilyph was unable to finish it off, I had to use Reflect before going down, to support the rest of the team against Ghetsis, whose team mostly uses physical moves. Whenever Ghetsis brings in either Bouffalant, Bisharp, or Electros, it would be up to Rocky Helmet Blitzle to tank their hits and whittle down their HP with the Rocky Helmet, who does exceptionally well against the Bouffalant and Electros' recoil moves. It also Thunder Waves against Bouffalant and Bisharp to try and fully paralyze them. Once it has done enough damage, it Volt Switches out to Fire Blast Chandelure to finish them off. Ghetsis usually saves Seismitoad and his signature Hydreigon last, and they almost perfectly counter my team. Seismitoad has the type advantage against everyone, and Hydreigon both outspeeds and overpowers my team with its raw special attack. I can't take them down with pure offense. It's usually up to Lampent with Will-O-Wisp and Memento to hinder them, and Yamask to use a combination of Will-O-Wisp, Destiny Bond, and Curse to try and impede them as much as possible. Once Lampent and Yamask do their jobs and go down, I just throw whoever's left to try and finish the job. I have to admit, this wasn't a super reliable plan, and it took about an hour of attempts to finally defeat Ghetsis and complete the challenge. And there we have it. Pokemon Black version completed with only Black Pokemon. So who do you think was MVP for this run? How else would you have taken this challenge on? If anyone else wants to try this hellscape of a challenge and come up with a better plan, please share your war stories in the comments and reveal just how suboptimally I played. Oh my god, this was hard, and I don't think I planned this route the best way possible. This was probably not the most optimal possible run. Oh, it's like someone smarter than me, please come up with a better plan and just show me how wrong I was. Oh my god, this was painful. So that's how it went. Leave a like if you enjoyed my war story, and subscribe for more nonsense like this. But if you don't want to go through that hell, how would you instead watch another video from this channel instead? I'm actually kinda curious what video YouTube thinks you'll want to see, so leave a comment down below on what video gets recommended to you.